48 hours ago, nobody saw this coming. And now 80 million Americans are directly in the path of what could be the coldest air mass in a decade. Minneapolis just recorded negative 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And that Arctic blast is now racing towards cities that haven't seen temperatures like this in over 50 years. But here's what just changed in the last 6 hours that has meteorologists scrambling. The forecast models just shifted this system 50 miles farther south. Cities like Atlanta, Charlotte, and Raleigh that thought they dodged the worst are now directly in the crosshairs of a potentially historic winter storm. And there's something else developing off the Carolina coast that could turn into a bomb cyclone by this weekend, bringing blizzard conditions from Florida to Boston. Before we dive in, drop your city in the comments right now, and I'll give you specific details for your area as this situation continues to evolve. What I'm about to show you is based on the latest model runs from just 2 hours ago, and the forecast is still changing as we speak. Right now, nearly 500,000 people are still sitting in the dark without power from this weekend's catastrophic ice storm. No electricity, no heat, and the coldest air of the entire winter is about to arrive, creating a genuinely life-threatening situation for hundreds of thousands of families. Louisiana, Mississippi, and Tennessee are bearing the brunt of these power outages. And for many, restoration could still be days away. Now picture this. You're already freezing in your home without power, and the temperature is about to drop another 20 to 30 degrees. This isn't about canceled flights or inconvenient commutes anymore. This is about survival in some of the hardest hit communities. An upper-level low that just devastated the United States with snow and ice is now positioned over the Great Lakes, and it's reloading for round 2. Thursday night into Friday morning, this system begins its descent into Wisconsin and Michigan, dragging Arctic air that originated over the North Pole. By Friday and Saturday, that same air mass will reach all the way to the Gulf Coast, bringing temperatures that will shatter records across the Deep South. Here's what makes this absolutely insane. We're tracking the possibility of measurable snowfall as far south as the Florida Panhandle. When was the last time you heard a meteorologist say that sentence with a straight face? Over the next 7 days, we're looking at some of the coldest temperatures the eastern United States has experienced in recent memory. Right now, today, widespread areas are already running 20 to 25 degrees below normal. And that zone of extreme cold encompasses nearly everything east of the Rocky Mountains. Wednesday and Thursday will bring temporary relief for the central and southern plains, but don't let that fool you into thinking this is over. The Ohio Valley and Northeast will remain locked in well below normal temperatures. And then Friday hits like a freight train. Friday and Saturday mark the arrival of truly record-breaking cold across most of the United States, with many areas plunging 30 to 40 degrees below their seasonal averages. Even Florida, yes, Florida, will experience extreme cold with many locations running 35 degrees below normal. Think about what that means for a state where people genuinely don't own winter coats. Now let me show you what happened overnight that completely changed this forecast and why the next model run could shift everything again. At midnight, the European model was showing this coastal storm tracking well offshore, which would have meant minimal impacts for the East Coast. But the 6 a.m. model run shifted that track dramatically westward, bringing heavy snow and ice into play for tens of millions of people. This is the kind of last-minute change that can mean the difference between a dusting of snow and 2 feet of accumulation. The GFS model is now showing something even more aggressive. A rapidly intensifying low-pressure system that could become a textbook bomb cyclone. We're talking about pressure dropping from 1,005 millibars to 971 millibars in less than 24 hours, which meets the technical definition of explosive intensification. When these coastal storms undergo bombogenesis, they can produce blizzard conditions with wind gusts exceeding 70 miles per hour. Let me break down what's happening across the country right now, and I'm going to group cities by the specific threat they're facing rather than just listing temperatures. First, let's talk about the places facing genuinely life-threatening cold right now. The kind of temperatures where exposed skin freezes in minutes. Minneapolis and St. Paul just experienced negative 43 degrees Fahrenheit, which is colder than the average temperature on Mars. Milwaukee and Madison are looking at temperatures between -15 and 0, with wind chills approaching -40 degrees. At these temperatures, frostbite occurs in less than 10 minutes, and any mechanical failure, a dead car battery, a furnace going out, becomes a medical emergency. Chicago, you're not far behind, with temperatures ranging from -10 to 5 degrees and wind chills hitting -30. Detroit, Cleveland, and Buffalo are all experiencing similar extreme conditions, with actual air temperatures well below 0. Indianapolis and Fort Wayne are locked into -10 to 5 degree temperatures, and this isn't a one-day event, this is a multi-day deep freeze. Now here's where this gets truly remarkable. That Arctic air is diving all the way to places that rarely see these kinds of temperatures. Dallas and Fort Worth, you're looking at 15 to 35 degrees, but here's what makes this different. You had 70-degree weather just 5 days ago. That's a 55-degree temperature swing in less than a week. And your infrastructure, your homes, your pipes, nothing is built for this. Houston, you're facing temperatures between 20 and 40 degrees, with lingering ice from the weekend storm still causing widespread power outages. San Antonio and Austin are in a similar situation, temperatures in the 25 to 45 degree range, which sounds mild until you remember most homes there don't have adequate insulation. New Orleans, you're looking at 30 to 50 degrees. And I know some of you are thinking that doesn't sound too bad, but when you're sitting in a home with no power and temperatures inside are dropping below freezing, that 30 degrees outside becomes dangerous fast. Memphis and Nashville, you're dealing with 20 to 40 degree temperatures along with significant ice and snow still on the ground from this weekend. The combination of power outages and prolonged cold is creating an increasingly desperate situation for many residents. Now let's talk about the cities facing the most complex forecast, where the difference between rain, ice, and heavy snow comes down to just a few degrees. Atlanta, you're in the crosshairs of something potentially significant. Temperatures between 25 and 45 degrees with lingering ice from the weekend. But that coastal storm we're tracking could bring another round of winter weather your way this weekend, possibly even measurable snow. Charlotte and Raleigh, this is where that southward model shift I mentioned earlier really matters for you. You're looking at 20 to 40 degree temperatures, but depending on the exact storm track, you could see anything from light flurries to significant snow and ice accumulation. Columbia and Charleston, South Carolina, the models are literally all over the place for your areas. Some are showing snow, some are showing ice, some are showing rain. And the difference comes down to whether this coastal low tracks 20 miles east or west. Richmond and Norfolk, Virginia, you're in a similar boat where this weekend could bring anything from a non-event to a legitimate snowstorm. Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia, you're looking at 5 to 20 degree temperatures right now with lingering snow from this weekend storm. The bigger question for you is whether that coastal system reorganizes close enough to bring another round of heavy snow Sunday into Monday. New York City, you still got 11 inches of snow on the ground from this weekend. Temperatures between 5 and 20 degrees and roads that are dangerously slippery. A cold weather advisory remains in effect, and depending on the coastal storm track, you could be looking at another significant snow event this weekend. Boston, you're dealing with temperatures between 0 and 15 degrees with the possibility of light additional snow, and you're potentially right in the bullseye for that coastal storm. If the models are right about a bomb cyclone developing, you could see blizzard conditions Sunday into Monday with heavy snow and winds gusting over 60 miles per hour. Now, some of you are in regions that aren't getting hit by this Arctic blast, and I want to acknowledge that too because the contrast is absolutely stunning. Los Angeles, you're enjoying 50 to 70 degree sunshine, while the eastern two-thirds of the country is in a deep freeze. Phoenix and San Diego, similar story, temperatures in the 45 to 70 degree range with beautiful weather. Seattle and San Francisco, you're dealing with rain, but temperatures staying mild in the 35 to 60 degree range. The Continental Divide is literally splitting this country into two different seasons right now. Miami, here's where things get weird for you. You're currently sitting at 60 to 80 degrees, which actually sounds nice. But by Monday and Tuesday, you could be flirting with freezing temperatures, which would be absolutely remarkable for South Florida. We're talking about a potential 60-degree temperature drop in less than a week for a city where the average low in January is 60 degrees. Now let me show you what's developing with this coastal storm, because this is where forecasting gets really difficult and really important. As that Arctic cold front continues pushing southward and eastward, it's going to collide with moisture streaming out of the Gulf of Mexico. Thursday, we'll start seeing light snow possible across portions of the deep south, though we're not expecting major accumulation at that point. Friday is when things start getting interesting, with snow potential from the Gulf Coast stretching all the way up through the southeast. But Saturday, that's when this whole situation could explode into something significant. A low pressure system is forecast to develop near the Carolina coast on Saturday, and the question is whether it intensifies rapidly or drifts harmlessly offshore. The latest model runs are showing this system potentially undergoing bombogenesis, which means rapid intensification. We're talking about central pressure dropping from 1,005 millibars down to 971 millibars in less than 24 hours. When a coastal storm intensifies that quickly, it can produce absolutely incredible amounts of snow in a very short period. Moisture streaming out of the Gulf collides with that entrenched Arctic air mass, creating a very localized but potentially devastating zone of heavy snow. Current model guidance shows the potential for significant snow across the Carolinas, eastern Georgia, and Virginia. By late Saturday night and early Sunday, watch how rapidly that low pressure system could strengthen as it moves up the coast. The GFS model is showing the potential for a major winter storm right along the immediate coastline from the Carolinas through New England. Sunday afternoon and evening could bring significant snowfall extending back into the interior northeast. But here's the critical part, and this is why I'm being very careful with this forecast. We're looking at three completely different scenarios. Scenario 1, the storm tracks close to the coast and rapidly intensifies, bringing heavy snow and blizzard conditions from the Carolinas to Boston. We're talking potential snow totals of 12 to 24 inches along the coast, with wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour. Scenario 2, the storm stays just far enough offshore that coastal areas see some snow, but the heaviest totals stay over the ocean. This would mean 2 to 6 inches for most coastal cities, with higher amounts possible on Cape Cod and the islands. Scenario 3, the storm tracks well offshore and we see minimal to no impacts from this system. This isn't just about snowfall totals, though those could certainly be impressive if Scenario 1 plays out. If we get a coastal storm of this magnitude, we could see wind gusts exceeding 100 miles per hour just offshore. For communities along the coast, especially in the Carolinas and extending back into the Northeast, blizzard conditions would be a real possibility. Wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour, especially near Cape Hatteras and Cape Cod, combined with heavy snow would create complete whiteout conditions. Travel would be extremely dangerous or outright impossible, and we could see widespread power outages from the combination of ice-laden trees and powerful winds. Now let me show you why this is so difficult to predict by looking at the ensemble forecast models. The European ensemble members show a cluster of possible storm tracks, and notice how they're relatively close together. This suggests the models have reasonable confidence that a low pressure system will develop, but the exact position is still uncertain. By Saturday afternoon and evening, when this system would begin rapidly intensifying, look at the spread. Most ensemble members place the storm within 50 to 100 miles of the coastline, which would bring significant impacts. But several members track the system farther offshore, and if any of those solutions verify, we'd see minimal impacts. This is why coastal storms are so notoriously difficult to forecast. A difference of just 20 to 30 miles can completely change the outcome. The Canadian model shows a similar setup with a winter system developing along the coastline, though not quite as intense initially. Interestingly, this model is showing snow showers extending all the way into the Florida Panhandle on Sunday morning. If that actually happens, it would be absolutely remarkable and something people would be talking about for years. The snowstorm potential remains significant for the Carolinas, extending back toward Maryland, Virginia, and into southern New England. The European model operational run shows yet another variation, with snow possible in the Carolinas and South Carolina. But notice how this solution tracks the system a bit more offshore, and that subtle difference matters enormously. A track 10 miles farther east could mean the difference between 18 inches of snow in your driveway or watching the storm pass harmlessly offshore. Yesterday at this time, we weren't even really discussing this storm as a significant threat. The probability seemed quite low. But with each new model run, the odds are increasing, especially if you're in the Carolinas, Georgia, or extending back up into the Northeast. The National Weather Service model blend is already showing some impressive snowfall potential right along the East Coast. Current guidance suggests widespread 4 to 8 inches of snow is possible, with locally higher amounts in favored locations. But if the more aggressive models verify, if we get that scenario 1 outcome I described earlier, totals could be significantly higher. We could be talking about 12 to 24 inches along the immediate coast, with blizzard conditions making travel impossible. Now let me talk about what concerns me most as someone who's been tracking severe weather for years. It's not necessarily the snowfall totals, though those could certainly be significant and cause major disruptions. What really worries me is the timing of this Arctic air arrival in relation to the power outages we're already dealing with. Right now, at this moment, 500,000 people are sitting in homes without electricity, and many have been without power for 3 or 4 days already. Monday morning, temperatures are going to plunge below freezing across the entire affected region. Tuesday morning brings single-digit temperatures as far south as the Interstate 85 corridor through the Carolinas. Tuesday afternoon, highs will barely climb above freezing anywhere from the Gulf Coast all the way to New England. For anyone who lost power during this weekend's ice storm, these temperatures transform an inconvenience into a genuine life-or-death emergency. Homes cool rapidly when outside temperatures are in the single digits, pipes freeze and burst, and vulnerable populations face serious risks. I'm talking about elderly residents, young children, people with medical conditions that require electricity for essential equipment. This isn't a typical southern winter storm where schools close for a couple of days and everyone builds snowmen before getting back to normal by midweek. This is more comparable to a hurricane that happens to be frozen. The same widespread infrastructure damage, the same extended power outages, the same potential for dangerous conditions lasting long after the precipitation ends. And here's what makes this even more heartbreaking. Some of these communities are still recovering from Hurricane Helene's devastation just a few months ago. Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, these mountain communities took a direct hit from that hurricane. Infrastructure is still damaged. Some people are still living in temporary housing. And now they're facing a potentially historic ice and snowstorm. The cruelty of that timing is genuinely hard to process when you think about what these families have already been through. If you're in the ice zone, anywhere from Texas through the deep south and up into the Carolinas, please take this seriously starting right now. Charge every device you own, your phones, tablets, laptops, portable batteries, everything. Fill your bathtubs with water now, because if you lose power and pressure drops, you'll need that water for flushing toilet. Gather warm blankets, sleeping bags, and winter clothing in one room that you can designate as your safe room if you lose heat. Know where your local warming shelters are located. Have their addresses and phone numbers written down, not just saved in your phone. If you have elderly neighbors or family members, check on them today. Make sure they have a plan and the supplies they need. Stock up on any necessary medications now, because pharmacies could be closed for several days if this storm hits as forecast. If you use heating oil or propane, make sure your tanks are filled. And if you have a fireplace or wood stove, stock up on firewood. Have alternative heating sources ready, but please be careful with portable generators and space heaters. Carbon monoxide poisoning kills people every winter during power outages. So, if you're running a generator, keep it outside and away from windows. If you absolutely must travel this weekend, then I really recommend you don't if you can avoid it. Have a complete emergency kit in your vehicle. Blankets, non-perishable food, water, a flashlight with extra batteries, a fully charged phone with a car charger, and a shovel. Tell someone your route and expected arrival time. because if you get stranded in blizzard conditions, you want people to know where to look for you. For those getting heavy snow rather than ice, and I know some of you are excited about that possibility, I get it, a big snowstorm can be beautiful and fun, but still, prepare for potential power disruptions and definitely stay off the roads during the height of the storm. Bring your pets inside now, make sure you have adequate food and supplies for them because stores could be closed for days. If you have livestock, make sure they have access to shelter and that water sources won't freeze solid. The combination of record-breaking cold and the potential for a significant coastal winter storm creates a particularly dangerous multi-day event. This cold pattern is expected to persist for at least the next 7 to 10 days, so we're not looking at a quick warm-up or a fast return to normal. I'll be monitoring this situation continuously and providing updates every few hours as new model data comes in and the forecast becomes clearer. Drop your city in the comments again if you need specific information for your area. I'm reading every single comment and trying to answer as many as possible. This is especially important for a significant weather event like this where the forecast is still evolving rapidly. If you found this forecast helpful and you want to stay updated on this developing situation, subscribe now so you don't miss the next update. I'll have another comprehensive breakdown within the next 12 hours as soon as we get the evening model runs and can see if that coastal storm track is becoming clearer. The details will absolutely change. That's the nature of forecasting a dynamic system like this, but the overall threat is not going away. Record cold is a certainty for the eastern two-thirds of the country. That part of the forecast we can be confident about. The weekend coastal storm adds uncertainty, but the potential for significant impacts from the Carolinas through New England is real and increasing. For those still without power from this weekend storm, time is running out to find safe shelter before the most extreme cold arrives Monday and Tuesday. Whether you're enduring the deep freeze of the upper Midwest, dealing with ice and power outages in the South, or preparing for potential heavy snow along the coast, stay safe out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.